Howdy guys, just another quick review of The Outsider by Albert Camus. The basic plot is that this is about a guy called Musso, I believe it's pronounced, who is considered to be very different to normal people. He appears to have something sort of autism spectrum-y about him. He is unable to lie and he has difficulty with his interactions with other people. He ends up in a really difficult situation. That's a nice way of putting it. He murders somebody. He ends up committing a murder, and the book is about his trial, and the basic premise is that it's about whether or not being different is what he's being accused of. It sums it up pretty much in one line on the back. The last line of the blurb says, he is on trial for being different, an outsider. And that was the line that really sold the book to me. I picked this up on a whim from the library when I was looking in the classics section, and I'm really glad I did because I enjoyed the book. I found that the book had almost two very distinct sections. The first section is about getting to know the character, understanding how he's different and how he perceives the world. And then the second half is after the murder. It's about the trial and how he's treated and the evidence that's given against him. One of the positives that really struck me is that I'm a big fan of Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote things like American Psycho. Probably know that. And this book had a really similar tone. I suppose it had that kind of same narcissistic feel about it, the main character not being able to understand why you would ever do anything for anybody else. And that kind of egotistical thing was quite strong. It had a really strong narrative and a real sense of being about a real clear person that's different from normal, which is what Bret Easton Ellis books are largely about. So that actually reminded me a lot of him, and I found that a positive because I like Bret Easton Ellis. As I said previously, it is split into two halves. The first half I wasn't a huge fan of, it was okay. The second half I was much more interested in. Up until that point it felt a bit mundane and boring and what have you, but the second half was much faster paced. It was about, him hurtling through this trial. I really liked the fact as well that it felt like there was a real purpose to the actions that happened and also to his thoughts in the story. It wasn't just a story that you read and it's a lovely little made-up world and you enjoy it. This felt quite deep, and it felt like every single line and every single page was powerful and there was something to be learned from it, and you do come out of it feeling like it was a learning experience, like it makes you perceive the world differently and think about things on a much deeper level than just your run-of-the-mill young adult book would. I think I also enjoyed the second half of the book because it was based around the trial, and that is sort of an area of personal interest to me. I'm one of those weirdos that kind of enjoys watching the crime channel and weird stuff like that. So I think it was, I enjoyed the process of seeing them stacking up evidence and deliberating over it. In terms of negatives, the biggest one for me was it felt like a real slow burner to start with. It's quite a short book, so that wasn't able to put me off, but it just felt like it took a while to get going. I understand that this is because you're learning about his character and you're learning about his motives, and that wouldn't work without it, but it still felt I took a while to get into it. Considering it's such a small book, it did take me quite a while to read, particularly at the start. I felt that the storyline kind of ticks along, but there's no plot, there's nothing happening. You're just looking at somebody's mundane, boring life, and it felt like there was no purpose behind anything, whereas the second half, every word mattered, every word had a point. So overall, on Goodreads I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I considered 4, but that would be me probably trying to pretend that I enjoyed a classic book more than I did. I tend to be not a particularly deep reader. I take things at face value, and I'm interested more in a story than I am in, overthinking it and trying to get deep meaning out of books. So I did enjoy it, but it certainly didn't, light up my world and keep me hooked every night. I think people who do enjoy that kind of deeper meaning in books will enjoy this a lot, and I do recommend you read it. It does make you think differently about what guilt means and how how awkward it must be to not feel understood by the world and how difficult a position that could put you in. So it does sort of make you think. It's a thinking book. So if you like that, you'll enjoy it. If you're looking for something that's just a nice story, there's nothing nice about this at all. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.